Hello there, welcome to the next episode of this Foundry VTT Adventure Creation series. Last time we talked about creating our second encounter, which was an ambush in a copse of trees. We started from scratch by creating a map in Dungeon Alchemist and then moved over to paint.net where we could cut out a foreground of trees for the canopy that would lie over the background of the lower level scrub, etc. So we got as far as talking about the ambush and how we would use Pathfinder 2nd Edition rules to run that. This time we're going to run the encounter, create the antagonists for the PCs to fight, and discuss the aftermath of the encounter. So without any further ado, we will join our game. And here is the copse ambush scene. We created the foreground with a tile, the background JPG image, and some letters designating where the antagonists were going to go. We'll go into the journal now. We created a screenshot in Dungeon Alchemist as well, which we ported over to our modules folder and then into the journal. So we discussed that in this ambush they weren't initially going to dive into combat, there was going to be some conversation beforehand. Use our usual formatting. So as the leader approaches from position A, assuming that the PCs had not already discovered the bandits, if they do, I'd handled that before, with the bandits will either do a makeshift ambush or indeed chase them if the PCs decided not to go into the copse in the first place. So the leader says, "Ha! The figure before you sneers in disgust. Is this what passes for heroes in Pendaka? Hand over your silver. Yes, the silver you were given in advance by that idiot mayor." The bandits, you see, were in town and they heard about the call to aid. Not willing to risk their necks for any worthy cause, 100 silver pieces each nevertheless was an attractive proposition. Knowing there were no experienced adventurers or Black Arrow's rangers in the area, they surmised that the call would only be answered by desperate townsfolk or green behind the ears adventurer hopefuls. Either way, far easier to waylay such a party for half the silver than to brave the actual trip through the ashwood for all the reward. The bandits are thoroughly wicked and will kill the PCs whether or not they hand over the silver, which they probably already spent, or items of equal value. Of course, if negotiating, they will demand the PCs drop their weapons before handing over their loot. That would make the job even easier. The leader carries on talking and then strikes suddenly, using his deception for initiative. In other words, he was striking unawares while pretending he was carrying on in conversation. A nice novel use of a different skill for initiative. This gives him a free demoralize check on the toughest looking PC. That's a certain feature that the bandit NPC has in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which we'll go into more detail about shortly. As I've said, the leader is a bandit. His two lackeys have the statistics of commoners. You may wish to roleplay the bandit as a would-be dashing highwayman, constantly exasperated at the ineptitude of his lackeys. He will give the PCs a choice, your silver or your life, but if they hand over any money, he corrects himself, my mistake, your silver and your life. So this is a classic low-level acting that we role players love to partake of. And next thing to do is insert the actual statistics of the antagonists. So we go to our trusty compendium pack, and once again for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, because it's open source really, and due to the kind work of the Pathfinder 2nd edition volunteer system add-on creators, we can simply look at Bandit, and in the NPC gallery we have a 2nd level Bandit. Now if we had 4 first level PCs, the 2nd level creature is going to be 80 experience points, so that's going to be a severe encounter, which I think they should handle. They've had a practice encounter with the electric eel already, and so I think they should be able to handle it, especially because we're essentially in wilderness mode where characters can essentially rest or take a long rest between encounters if they wish by simply going back to Pendaka. So here's our stats for the Bandit. Unfortunately, we have a rather lame generic picture, so let's get a nicer picture. So I've made sure that we have got the images in the right folder. I put them in the modules, Strife and Grimbone walkthrough, assets, tokens folder, but it could be any folder. So I've got the images that I want to use now in the correct folder, which would be the Strife and Grimbone walkthrough, assets, tokens folder. This is the compendium pack version of the actor. We need to import it into our module, into our world I should say, and we've got our creatures subfolder there. We'll drag the Bandit into there, and now we'll edit this version of it. So we'll click on the portrait. As you may recall from a previous episode, I'd set up Tokenizer so I could create tokens. I set it up as a separate tab on here so that if I click here I still get the picture rather than diving into Tokenizer. One does that by going into game settings and looking at Tokenizer settings. So we'll go up to modules and down to assets, tokens, and we've got Bandit. There we can get a little preview there. Our Bandit there. So we got a nice Bandit there. And because I'd already set up a token, I won't go into Tokenizer. I'll go into prototype token. Bandit, display name never displayed. Let's have it displayed when hovered by anyone. And we'll change the appearance to the token version of the Bandit. Update. So now we'll check that works. We'll drag the Bandit onto the scene and we see, zooming in, the token version of the Bandit. Delete him for now. And we'll do the same for the commoners. Compendium pack, commoner. And we'll import it from the compendium pack into our world. So the commoners are level -1. So at first level, level -1 is going to give you 20 XP. So this is a 120 XP encounter. So this encounter is a severe encounter, 120 XPs in total. We'll edit the commoner. Again, go up to modules and then down to the correct folder, and this was the commoner avatar, and on the prototype token and because I've got two of them, I like to select this append number to name of unlinked tokens. So a good example, we've got commoner 3, so we're going to have commoner 1, commoner 2. It just makes it easier for people to identify multiples of the same mobs. I don't like the prepend adjective to name unlinked tokens. Do I really want a disillusioned ooze? It sometimes is going to work more by luck than judgment, but I think it's a little bit cheesy, so I don't do that. And then update, and then just go in again. Appearance, and we want the commoner token. And we'll drag it across, and that's what the commoner is going to look like. Commoner 1, and we drag another one across, commoner 2, so everybody can distinguish the two. We will now drag them onto our journal, and I'll do a ×2 to an underline, and now at the appropriate point, we'll save that. Look at the actual journal rather than the journal editor, and we scroll down. Oh, there's a mistake there. I think that's where I had pasted in the wrong place. That's better. The leader approaches, says his piece, and we can drag the bandit from there and the commoners from there. So I think it's now time to run the encounter. So we'll have our party. We decided it was going to be about 30 feet away. But if they hadn't discovered the bandit there, it could be any distance away. The bandit will choose when to appear, so why don't we have it there? And that way it will achieve what they wanted, namely the commoners being behind the party. Right click to pop them out. I don't think we want the party thing in the way there, but the marching order would probably be something more like this, and we can say that Maurizio was avoiding notice. Perhaps we can see they're partially covered by our foreground trees. We don't really need to use the editor at the moment. Close that. So we have the bandit appearing here, and the commoners appearing here. And we will select them all. And put them in the encounter mode, toggle combat state, and we have to make sure to deselect this. I have a problem with deselecting this. Even if I press escape, nothing happens. That just gets rid of the journal page. I tend to go into measurement and then back out, and I will deselect them all. We're running the combat as a game master at the moment, but I thought it might be helpful if we actually at least simulate some of the combat from the player's point of view. I think it's nice occasionally, as when creating a module, an adventure, to go into player view just to make sure the players are seeing what you want them to see. I've been caught out before by having journal entries that were visible to players because they weren't linked to hidden private journal entries on the in the journal tab. I'd created them in the journal notes there to appear on the scene. Also, sometimes if you drag a token across from one room to the other, say they're sort of jumping from one level to another, or they're moving from one room to another, because you maybe finished an encounter and then started it somewhere else again, the fog of war gets affected everywhere that you drag the players through, so they might be seeing areas that they're not supposed to see. All these tips you're only really going to pick up on if you see the game as a player. Anyway, so that being done, I think it's time to roll initiative. So we started off with the bandit has come here and is chatting to Valeros, and the commoners will come there, and they're glaring meaningfully at the rear members of the party. As the bandit is chatting to Valeros, the players decide that dropping their weapons isn't a particularly good idea. They're in no mood to argue with some bandits. They defeated an electric eel after all. They feel outrage and indignation that they're trying to help the town of Pindaka, and the first thing that happens is they get waylaid by robbers. So the bandit will roll his deception for initiative. So we'll see if that's different from his perception, and then we'll have to add a bonus to the roll. So we'll click the bandit, and we see his initiative is +6, defaulting to perception, but if we change it to deception, oh, he's even worse. Well, so never mind, that's the way it goes, but he does have a special ability. Bandit's ambush. When the bandit rolls initiative using deception or stealth, they can attempt to demoralize one creature as a free action. So despite the disadvantage, he's going to use deception anyway. So let's roll his initiative. Here's that bandit here. Click on him. Oh my goodness, natural 1. Well, he's not deceiving anyone, is he? Do the other two commoners. You can click a button here to roll all the NPCs at once if you like. And so they've done their thing. Now let's set up at least one of the characters as a genuine player. Earlier I'd gone into game settings, invitation links, and copied that to then paste onto my own web browser. So I'm running one version as a game master and then another version as a player. So I'll go into the player's view and link a player to a character. So in player view now, you can see the difference because some of the settings are customized. I'd customized my carousel to have bigger avatars there. Haven't done so in the player view because it's all just default. And you can see there's fewer buttons on the left hand side. So it's giving me the chance to change my name, which I won't do. Select an avatar, which might appear on there. Colour, I think purple will do. Well, why don't we just choose a different colour? We'll choose red colour. And then select an actor from the set which you have at least observer permission over, which represents the main character. So do we have? No, we don't have any yet there. We'll have to set our permissions first. Now we'll go into the Game Master mode. And go to User Management. And now we've got Player 1, so we've set as a trusted player, good. And then we'll go into our actors, and who shall be the player? Shall we say Valeros? No, why don't we say Ezran? So we'll right click Ezrin and then configure ownership, and then you say, well, player 1 is the owner of Ezrin, has owner status, and then as a player it should be possible to link them. So we'll go back into player view, so now we can see the full character sheet of Ezrin. That means we've got ownership. We try and click Kyra, all we get is their height and weight, what the default thing is, but they've got no visibility at the moment, so let's sort that out. Now we'll click on Ezrin. We can also go into System and change these things. So this is the default preview D20 dice rolls. I like the immediacy of just clicking the button and getting a roll, and then pressing Shift. You actually want to change it, so we won't do that, and we won't preview damage either. And now Ezrin can see, because he's actually set up with the character. So this is Ezrin here. So we can see we can't click on these others because we don't own them. We're in the player view. Back to Game Master view. We'll do Valeros's initiative first. We can click on the carousel. Valeros obviously was taken in by the bandits' cunning words. Meriziel will use stealth for initiative, so we better click her tab. She's got stealth selected there, so normally it'd be perception, but stealth. Not very stealthy, Meriziel. Obviously the commoners were well aware of her, and avoiding notice didn't really avoid anyone's notice. Kyra. Much better from Kyra. She's obviously alert to what's going on. And then finally Ezrin is our player character, so we'll go into the player character and see if we can see where we'd left our mouse in Game Master mode. That little dot there, Game Master, shows where the mouse of the Game Master is. So it's a good way to point out things without having to press a button. You can do a long press to point things out. And so Ezrin is automatically selected because he's our player. He'll check his initiative. Not bad at all, Ezrin. We'll go back into the Game Master screen, and now we see everyone's initiative there, and we'll begin the encounter. So first to act is Kyra. At last the spellcasters are getting a turn. Kyra deems that this may be a difficult fight, and she wants the blessing of Siren Ray. So we'll select her, double click her, go to her spells, and she will cast Bless. Whoops. Give her a Bless spell, and we will cast Bless now. We'll go into the chat box there. I'll empty that because we're starting a new fight. Here we go, cast, and we will give her the aura. So we get a nice visual effect. All the allies are affected by her Bless spell, and if you mouse over her we see the area of the Bless spell. In remaster it's 15 feet, which is nice. She has another action. We will see what she could take with her last action. Let's see what her proficiencies are. Not very intimidating. And let's see what she's got drawn. Well, her scimitar is there, and her opponent is there. Why doesn't she strike with the righteous fury of Sarenrae Ray against Highwayman and their evil ilk? So we select the bandit, strike at +6. Not so good. Critical miss from Kara there. Never mind. At least you've done bless, which will hopefully help everybody else. We can see that she got +2 for strength, +3 for trained, and her bless is giving her the attack bonus. Next person is Ezran. Now Ezran doesn't want to be outdone. Let's go into the player mode. Here we are in the player mode. Magnify a bit, so fill up the screen with something nice instead of blankness. And Ezran is thinking, these two could probably do with a bit of cooking. They look a bit rare to me, and so he's going to breathe a bit of fire on them. He has a breathe fire spell ready, he does now. And so the way we do this is by casting. That puts the breathe fire card in the chat messages, and what he will do is place the 15-foot cone. So now we see the cone here. If we hold shift and scroll the mouse wheel, that will make the cone appear in different locations. Now, according to the rules, you can start your cone from any corner of your token square. So if he does it there, he can get both commoners and none of the party, which is nice. And then we'll roll the damage. Quite impressive damage roll there. And so these guys have to make saving throws. So commoner 1 first, so when we move our screen over here, it lights up as being that one. But we should probably go into Game Master mode. Assign the damage there. Very nasty. Let's have a look at this commoner. You've got 1 hit point left. And the other one is going to make a saving throw. Critical failure. He's not looking too clever at all. He's going to take double damage. Make sure he's selected, and double damage. Well, Ezran burns into a crisp. One of them is very badly wounded, the other one is burnt to a crisp. Now, you can see that the player has very little visual feedback over the state of this commoner. Of course, the GM could explain it and describe it all, but perhaps some of us are used to video games where we want some visual representation as well. And I think maybe now's the time to think about some added modules to give us a visual representation of what's going on. So we go to our game settings, manage modules, and we can add in health estimate by Matthias Clement, thank you to him. Health estimate gives a written or message such as barely wounded, severely wounded, near death, the kind of thing we're all used to, above the tokens, above the token when we mouse over it. And this is going to be visible to all the players by default. We can have a pictorial representation by having token magic FX by Shemetz, thank you to them, and we'll click that. That requires token magic FX to be selected as well, and we'll save our module settings. Reloaded nicely. I just want to check the configure settings. For the token magic FX, it sets up templates, but we already kind of got templates, and sometimes there's a bit of a combination between what you get on Jules and Ben's animations and the token magic effects, so I'm just disabling that one. So we're doing it purely for the pictorial representation. So now when someone gets wounded, it should come up. So we'll just undo commoner 1's damage, and then if he takes the damage again, have him selected, he's got a wound, and we see that he's near death, and obviously that one's dead, and all our crew are unharmed. So nice one, Ezran. You've really taken care of those commoners almost. But Ezran hasn't finished yet. He has a spell that has 1 action casting time, and just for such an encounter and such a circumstance, he has his Force Barrage, which was known by a different spell in a previous life, and if he casts the 1 action version, he just does 1 2d5 worth of damage, but that's kind of all we need for someone who's got 1 hit point, and that will stop him ever having the chance to do any damage himself. In this game, the best debuff is death, and that guarantees that you don't get hurt. And the other thing about these role-playing games is you can be on 1 hit point, but you've got just as much offensive capability as if you had 100 hit points. So it's really worth your while taking your turn to try and eliminate enemy characters completely. So he's going to cast Force Barrage. We should really be in player mode, shouldn't we? Game Master's not going to take control of that character. We want more player agency. There we go, Ezran. Your Force Barrage. And so Ezran will double click to bring up his sheet. Go into, uncast that. Give him another one. Cast it. Here's his Force Barrage. And blah blah blah. We'll roll our damage, and we're just going to do that once. If we did a 3-action one, we'd be doing it 3 times. If we did if we were casting it at 3rd level, we'd be doing it 6 times, and probably by that time you might want a macro or something like that to roll 6 dice at once. Anyway, 1d4 plus 1 of force damage. We got a minimum damage too, but we don't mind about minimum in this case. Select him. I did try and select him, but because I'm not the game master, I can't select him. Let's undo that. Let's go back into game master screen. Here we are. Select him, and he takes the damage. Dead. Well, between Ezran and Kyra, or mainly Ezran, 2 out of 3 are eliminated, but perhaps the bandit was the most dangerous opponent. So Ezran cast 2 spells in 1 turn there and killed 2 enemies. Click on him if we didn't know it was him already. Now, he gets a free action to demoralize because he used his deception for initiative, didn't he? If you click on the sheet, just reminding you, bandits, ambush, demoralize. So we'll have Ezran as our target. I'm not sure this is going to work automatically, so we'll find out together. If we click on that, and we'll select him and do an intimidation check. Anyway, he scored a success, and we can drag that condition onto Valeros. Valeros is blessed but frightened. and I think it's beyond first level where fighters reduce their fighting levels, so Valoros is subject to the full fear effect. And this is going to be good for the bandit because he's got Valoros weakened and he's naturally going to choose Valoros as his opponent. We didn't specify that Valoros was defending, so his shield isn't raised by default. The bandit wields 2 hatchets and he's going to lash out at Valoros with the first of them. So he scores a hit against Valoros. And we see the other benefits of the bandit. Frightened creatures are off guard to the bandit, so you can see that Valoros's AC was reduced from 17 to 15 through being off guard. This is a nice combination of abilities that the bandit has to set up a nice ambush strike. And so he's hit quite easily. The damage is minimum, which will be taken by Valoros. So Valoros has got a little bit of a wound on him and now he's injured. And the bandit has 2 more actions because the demoralize was a free action. He's going to spend his second action striking at Valoros using his agile weapon, so as a reduced multiple attack penalty. And that misses, and he's going to try his luck swinging back with a despairing third action, which misses as well. The commoners are dead, so they're not doing anything. Now it's Meriziel's turn. She didn't go before the bandit in initiative order, so she can't get off guard automatically. However, she can move to a flanking position, and that's what she will do, hoping the bandit doesn't have attack of opportunity, which he doesn't. So first action was pretty successful. Now we'll see if you can attack the bandit off guard. So we'll make sure the bandit is off guard. We have done so. Meriziel is the subject, and press T to make the bandit the target. And have at it, Meriziel, with your rapier. Well, you've hit. And we see sneak attack, and that's a very good hit. So 1d6 plus 4 plus an extra d6 for the piercing for the sneak attack, and the bandit will take that. The bandit's quite significantly injured now. Meriziel hasn't finished yet. She can come round with her agile dagger and go for a sneaky lunge again. So multiple attack penalty. Well, less said about that the better. That's Meriziel's turn. At last it's Valoros's turn. The penalties for believing the bandit's deception. But he's fairly well set up with a bless spell and with flanking, though he is frightened. Nevertheless, it's the curse of all GMs trying to keep their encounters going. A fighter amongst the players. Let's see what happens. Already seems to be targeted there. So he will strike with his longsword. Well, there you go. Critical hit. Told you, didn't I? And the bandit is going to take a shed load of damage. Let's see if he can just survive this. Oh, whoops, made a mistake. I should roll critical damage, shouldn't I? Oh, that's a poor roll. And looks like the bandit is going to survive. Just. Now Valeros is using his double strike ability, so his wooden shield is just going to be a -2 penalty. So we'll do a strike at +9, but we'll press shift strike and then just make a oh, I know what we can do. It's automatic. We can do double slice second attack. Check that there. So he's gone to +7, and we'll do a +7 strike. And that's a hit too. Gonna do the damage. And that's enough. That's the end of the combat. That's the beauty of double strike. So all the characters showed off some talents there. That Kyra was able to cast Bless. Ezrin did a nice ranged attack against 2 opponents, and Mariziel got her sneak attack in. I think I'm just going to show one more add-on module which I find helpful. So we saw that when we selected Ezrin to do the spell there, we had to select both commoners individually to make their saving throws. If you're doing a fireball and you might have 6 or 7 targets, it can get quite complicated. And there is a nice module add-on called Toolbelt, which allows us to deal with this in a more automated manner. So let's wind back time, make these commoners alive again. And we'll go to add-on, we'll go to manage modules, and we'll add on Toolbelt by Idle, so thanks very much to them. And Ezrin will, let's hope it works on its default settings. We will get rid of this thing. We should have done that before, really. So normally what you would do is we go right up to bandit. Ezrin, he would go up to his breathe fire, and if you click that button there, that gets rid of the template there. The other way to do it is to go into measurement controls and clear all the templates that way. But he's going to cast the spell again, because fate caused resurrection of the 2 commoners. Now he has this arcane folk. He has the ability to relearn 1 spell, doesn't he, as a wizard? So he's got his breathe fire back, and he's going to cast it again. Same tab here, so we'll place our cone. So that's going to work as well, that orientation, now that Kyra has moved. Now we get the option automatically to select people in the area. So a breathe fire default wouldn't only affect the allies, it would affect anyone in the area, hence the fuss of my selecting the particular orientation. So it would be both. We wouldn't include self, but self isn't in the area anyway. Include neutrals, so fine, so we'll target those. So they're automatically targeted now, both of them. And now we'll roll the damage. 2d6 as usual. Nice average roll. And we can then do saving throws for them. He succeeded, so he takes half damage, and he succeeded as well, and this time takes half damage. Now there's some further things we can add to Pathfinder 2nd Edition Toolbelt by configuring the settings. Going to PF2e Toolbelt, and I'm scrolling down. Target helper, so this will automate the targets further. I think that's all we need to do. Reload the game. Okay, and we'll get rid of that cone. And Ezrin, have another go. Magically reload again. So he's going to cast the spell. That will allow us to place the cone. Target both. And now roll the damage. And now we see he's done 6 damage, but now we see that because they were automatically targeted, they're already selected to make saving throws here. So this is indicating a reflex save, DC 17. So we click the save there, and it automatically is indicating that a 16 is a success, and so it's highlighted half. So you take half damage there, and this commoner, and now it's blurred out because that one's been done, and this one clicks. They also passed the DC and half damage. So I like this. It's a nice way to automate damage if a fireball is affecting many opponents at once. But really, they'd won their encounter, hadn't they? We don't want to do too much cheating. We'll end it. And because we had the PF2e automatic experience awarding, it decided it was a severe encounter, going to only give us 100 for some stingy reason. Maybe I've calculated it wrongly, and they all get that award. We don't want to eliminate anyone from receiving an award. And we get the message that they received their experience points there. So let's look at what happens after the fight. Now the experience points have been awarded. I think we can take off the bless spell now, Kyra. Right click that too. And Valos is no longer frightened. Deleted, and of course we can get rid of that by doing it this method. Start editing the journal to add in here. So we'd run the combat as a kind of a demonstration, but again it's quite early days in the adventure, and I like to have a kind of guide that the GM may or may not wish to follow as to how it's anticipated the combat would be managed. I'd suggested that the lead bandit would close to melee, if not already in melee range, which was in this encounter, and attack on frightened PC, who will be off guard as we found out. He will then attempt to flank opponents with his lackeys, if they live long enough. He will sweep a hatchet at 2 adjacent PCs. We didn't use that, did we? Hence the reason for having all this in there to help the GM. The second attack is only at -3 because of the sweep trait. -4 instead of -5 because it's agile, -3 because of the sweep trait. The lackeys will throw the rocks in their hands and close to melee against weaker looking opponents. All the while the bandit shouts orders in increasing exasperation at the lackeys, berating their incompetence every time they miss. For their part, the lackeys ask stupid questions like, "I hit him now, boss?" when the fight has already started. If sorely pressed, the bandit will shout hopefully, "Parley," which he didn't get the chance to do here, while still fighting, and suggest they give him half the silver as they walk their separate ways. I'm not sure many parties would do that, but they get to feel that they're in control of the game, I think. For all the playing this fight for laughs, I do make a point that it's a tough challenge for the PCs, a severe encounter. They should recognise that the lead bandit is by far the main threat. And then after the fight, the PCs will want to loot the bodies, no doubt. The bandits have between them a small harp with 8 silver pieces, 130 silver pieces in coin, a silver low-grade short sword, handy against certain opponents with certain weaknesses, a vial of blackadder venom for all these poisoner PCs out there, and a minor healing potion for in case you'd use the venom on yourself, presumably. If the PCs use non-lethal attacks for their last strikes to bring them to 0 hit points, they may bind the bandits and take them back to the authorities. But the law in these parts is harsh, and Pindaka will simply be grateful if the PCs report the bandits are slain. The PCs might then head south down the track to deliver the letter. Remember the side quest for Gianna, delivering the letter to the old maid, and this path down to the south leads there. So all I think we need to do now is to add in some loot for making it convenient to give the treasure to the players. So create a bit of space for it there, and we'll create a loot actor. So we'd already created one for the advance payment from the mayor. We'll create another one, and we'll call it bandit loot, and it is loot, and it's in the loot folder. We've got a big treasure chest here, but we can change that. So in the core of Foundry VTT, they do have some stock images, and I think we make use of those by going to icons and containers. Maybe we'll choose a bag, click there to look at see what they look like, and well, that looks like a bandit sack, doesn't it? And now we fill up the loot actor with what we want. So we had a small harp worth 8 silver pieces. So we go into our compendium pack. Let's do instrument, because I don't think we'll have a harp. Musical instrument. Heavy, well, it's got a picture of a harp. And I think we might edit that. And because I said small harp, I don't think we want bulk 16, we'll have a bulk 1 harp. We'll change its name to small harp. And we wanted to have it a bit more valuable than that, or a bit less valuable than that. I know, let's be generous and keep it 2 gold pieces, which is 20 silver pieces. No, let's stick to the rules. Perhaps there's a special reason why I wanted it cheaper. 8 SP. So that's our harp. We've got 130 loose change. And we've got a short sword, a silver low-grade short sword. So we'll look at short sword, drag that in. Now we need to customize this one as well. And go into the details. And we'll add a precious material, silver low grade. So we've got that now. And a vial of black adder venom. Don't need to adjust that one. And if you want to, you could make it a mystified item so we don't know what it is, so they can do a nice taste test of blackadder venom. And then the minor healing potion. Healing potion minor. And we can mystify that one as well. That's our bandit loot, and we can drag that there. And now, when we're in the journal playing the game, we've got our loot, and we could just drag it onto there and say, that's the bandit loot, and then the players can look at it and start dividing up amongst themselves and murdering each other, fighting over the harp. Let's go into the player view to see what the player can do with this loot. So here we are. We've got Ezrin here, and he's been shown the loot. He can click on it, and then he can see an unusual liquid and another unusual liquid. You can see the silver pieces and the harp and the silver short sword, and knows their value. And then he can drag the harp from the loot bag onto his token, and now we see that Ezrin takes the small harp from bandit loot. Look on Ezrin, and we have there a small harp. When we go into the GM mode, we can see that there's also the ability to distribute the coins, so which the players can't do. The player could just decide to take some silver pieces themselves. So, but let's show that. We'll go back into player view. That's this one there. So silver pieces, so you can drag that, and then it says how many. So he might divide 130 by 4 if he can. Let's say he's a bit greedy and takes 30. And now it's down to 100 in the loot bag, and he's taken his 30. If we don't know what he had already, but now he's got 34 silver instead of probably 4 before. And the rest of the party didn't see that, and so the GM, if they want to divide the loot equally, now they've got 100 to distribute. So we click this, choose actors to receive a share. So what it's done is, because these are NPCs, it hasn't defaulted to recognize them as people warranting payment. So, but if there were 4 separate players controlling these characters, it would be the choice to give equal shares to the separate characters. So we've done the combat, we've run the combat, shown some add-on modules, and we've done after the combat and shown again how we can set up a loot bag and distribute the players' well-gotten gains. So I think we'll stop there. Next time we'll talk about what the players do next. Maybe they'll go and deliver the letter to the old maid. Maybe they'll do something completely different entirely. But as the GMs, we have to allow for different eventualities, and we'll do some conversation with the old maid, perhaps some skill checks in conversation as well with her. So thanks again for watching and listening, and hope to speak to you next time. Bye.